Today's the day. We're gonna start working on the Jeep again. It's been a long time. You watched my previous video. It's time to get cracking on this because I got 2 months to get it done for a Jeep ride event that I want to go to. So if you're here today because of the video you saw last time, thanks for watching. I'm going to try to give you a little more realistic view of what I do in this shop, and a lot of it consists of me just sitting on this stool with coffee or tea or whatever and trying to scratch my head through the engineering of this. This project's been challenging because there are no bolt-on parts. Everything is make it by hand or make something work. So it's been really slow. So today I want to engineer the rock sliders and the roll cage brace mount thingies. So I need to make 6 brackets for the roll cage to the frame, so I have 3 on each side, and then some type of Nerf bar rock slider step combo thing. So I'm gonna just drink some coffee and stare at it for a while, and then hopefully start making some sparks and some progress. All right, so after another cup of coffee, I think I have a plan. This is not the tubing I will use. This is actually a leg off of my truck camper jack. I replaced the jacks and I kept this as a cheater bar, and but it's really close in outer diameter to the, I'm gonna use the roll cage tubing to build this rock slider step thingy. But this is a lot easier than holding up an 8-foot stick of it. So I think what I'm going to do, I want to keep it up as tight as I can. This body's really narrow, which is great. It's actually well inside the tires, so that's very different. A flat fender, the edge of the tub is flush with the tires. So this is a big benefit. When you come down off a large rock, that rock will be right here and should go right by. Of course things are going to hit, but and we might end up getting in worse situations because of this, but the whole point of this build is I've wheeled the flat fenders a ton, the 80-inch wheelbase. I wanted to try something different, so when we go with groups, it'll be cool to see how a different setup does on the same line, and vice versa. So I don't want the Nerf bar out here the way the flat fender body would, because I don't want it to hit. I just want it so that if something does hit here, that it would you know, not damage the tub. This is, I have 1/8-inch steel plate all the way across this, so it's already really strong, and that gives me a good place to tack some supports into. It's not just a sheet metal bottom, so there's actually a space in there, but only to the frame rail. So I know you're thinking, oh, that's going to collect dirt and rust and stuff. And yeah, it will, but this isn't a mud buggy, and I'm going to paint everything on the inside. And when I pull the tub off, I'm actually going to take the plasma cutter and open it up. So it's just a smaller shelf, and there are supports, like hat channel style supports going this way. So it's going to be super strong, and it's not that heavy because there's so little to it. So yeah, there's some heavier steel on the bottom, but overall it's just 18 and 20 gauge sheet metal, plus whatever the old cowl is made out of. I would say it's 18 or 20 as well. So anyway, I think I'm going to tie into this body mount. I like to weld all my Nerf bars to the frame, or sliders. Some people don't like to, and I was really against it at first because I thought, well, what if I got to take it off? And I've never had to, and that's what plasma cutters and grinding wheels or cutoff wheels are for. So also for all the people who are worried about my butt joint frame weld, I did plate it from the back with a 2-foot plate. It's another piece of frame channel cut down, so that's really strong. And then this weld, this rock slider is going to span where my joint is and just further stiffen it. And hopefully this, I'm going to weigh this when it's all done, but I think it's going to be really close to stock flat fender weight. So I'm hoping for around 2,500 pounds. So it's a light vehicle, it's going slow, it's not a rock bouncer. It's going to be just fine. So my plan is to put this right about here. I'll tie the front in to this body mount And I'll come back here. I'm going to put a bend right there, and then probably come back. I'm running out of tubing, and I don't want to buy any more, so I'm going to figure out the equal length I can have on both sides with my support. So it's probably going to come back to about where the tire is, and that's plenty, because if you know, you're gonna either ride over a rock or get stuck on it. There's very little likelihood, and this is 1/8 inch plate back here too. So it's going to stop right about where the front tire is, which is what I normally do on the flat fenders anyway, because the rock slider would have to stop right here. So it's going to be about 3 feet long. It's going to come right over here. I'll probably keep it about 1/4 inch away from the tub, have a bend in it there, and just cap it. I might cut it at a 45 so it looks nice, and then plug the end with a weld. And then I'll have that brace there. I'm going to put a brace right here and a brace in the back. And then I'll tie that into the tub, and then I'll have this piece coming down for the roll cage support. One thing I forgot to mention is the step. This thing is kind of hard to get into. Once you're in, it's got more room than a flat fender, but the opening is more narrow. The passenger side's not bad, the driver's side's a little bit more snug. That low profile Kaiser Willys steering wheel really helps. I got long legs and big feet, so I don't really need the step, but it will help in some situations. But my wife, on the other hand, and my kids, who are most likely my main passengers, they need a little help getting in. So the step, my plan is to put it right here. That will keep it, and it's going to be small. It's just going to be like a toe step. It's kind of similar to the flat fender step. That always gets ripped off, but mine's going to be in a little bit farther. So the plan is to, it'll be kind of like a horse. So you step on the stirrup with your right foot and swing your left foot in. So my hope is that the shorter people can step on with their right foot, and I'm going to put a grab hold on the roll cage on both sides. Just a little handle right here, mainly so people don't grab the windshield or the sheet metal. And when you're riding, that'll give you kind of an oh crap handle. So there'll be a handle here and a step here, so your right arm and your right foot can grab those, and then you swing the left side of your body in. I move my coffee so I don't spill it. And so I can't really replicate it. Well, I guess I can sort of. So you step right here and get in like that. And then once you're in here, hopefully you'll be good to go. I gotta make some little adjustments so that it's more comfortable for the passenger, but as long as the driver's comfortable, we're good. And then you'll have a little handle right here to kind of help. I don't want to put a handle on the dash, but we'll see how crazy we get on the trail. And then once you're in, should be good. And I think one thing that's gonna be really interesting about this is the visibility. The front end is longer than a CJ, so I'm not gonna be able to see as far. It's actually very long. It's more like a Cruella de Vil kind of car. So that's gonna probably be a downside to this project, but that's okay. It's a concept build, so it'll be fun. But you have really good visibility of the tires. So if I have to ask a passenger, like, when am I gonna come down off that rock, or which way do I need to turn? I think even with the fenders in place, you're gonna have really good visibility. And then when you're sitting like this, the tires stick out so far, you're gonna have pretty good protection. You know, if you rub the tire off a tree, you're gonna have a foot before it's gonna hit the body. So I think that's gonna be a pretty good feature. But it's gonna be a lot of fun just seeing how this thing works on the trail. So that's my plan. Let's get started. Well, I lied. We're not making sparks first. I'm gonna bend this first and then cut it to make sure I don't lose any, I don't want any extra scrap. This is the bender that I used for the roll cage. It's one of the more recent tools I've purchased, and it's called Affordable Bender. You've probably heard of them. It works really well. You probably wouldn't want this if you make cages like every couple months, but I pretty much do one roll bar cage per project and an occasional rock slider because it is slow and it takes some effort, and it's a bit of a pain to lay out big stuff where you have multiple bends because it sits on the floor. But for like 300 and some bucks and how small it is, so it's usually several years between roll bars that I'm building. So this thing, it takes up about 8 inches of floor space, and you can just slide it in the back, and there's pretty much no maintenance on it, so you don't have to worry about it getting dirty or, you know, moist sitting in your shop. So I'm going to put a little bend on this. I've got it measured out to where I want the center of my bend to be. So just start bending and then mock it up and cut it, and hopefully I have enough on the other end of this. This is my last stick. I bought this tubing years ago, and the price has gone up about 70 times in that amount of time, so I don't want to have to buy a whole nother stick just to finish a rock slider. So this is 1 3/4 120 wall, like roll cage tubing. It's not pipe, so this is good stuff, and it's going to be perfect for this job. So you just clamp it in there. This is really similar to the bender that I borrowed from my friend Jeff when I built the other cage, except this doesn't have as tight a radius. This bends a 7-inch radius, and it goes, you can go beyond 90 degrees, but the dies are actually really nice, and it's quite simple and gets the job done. So if you're thinking about a bender, I've only built 1 cage with this so far, but I was pleased, so I do recommend it. The shipping came pretty quick. It's made in the United States, and I'm not affiliated with them, but I'm just sharing some of the tools that I've been using. All right, so I'm gonna get this bend just right. I've got a mock-up piece over there, and then we'll check back in a moment. I really like using TIG filler rod to help with bends. It's cheap. I have it laying around, and then even after you bend it, this piece is still good. So this is the bend radius of my tub, and I'm going to try to follow that with the tubing. This will just get me close, and since this doesn't really have to meet up with anything else, it doesn't have to be exact. So this will just get me close. If it's off a tiny bit, you're not going to notice just because of what I'm using this for. Anytime you're using a bender, you have to kind of get used to the bender itself and where the bend starts and stops, and also you have to account for the spring back of your material. So, you know, bend a little, let off the pressure, you'll see it spring back, and it's, especially when you get close to your final bend, just take little bites. It's just like machining. You can always take a little more. You can't add anything back. So you could straighten this back out, but we don't want to have to do that. So I'm just lining it up here and going real slow, and I can see I've got a little more to go. So I'll show you the spring back. So I'm pretty close there. It's not much. This stuff doesn't spring back too much, but on a really critical bend, you're going to want to make sure you check for that. I think I'm pretty close on my bend, so you can always put it back in the bender. It's pretty easy on a simple bend like this, especially in a small piece, to get it lined back up to the same spot. It'll kind of want to snap down in the die exactly where you stopped, so that does make it easier. The dies do fit very snug, which is what you want. But sometimes they can get stuck in the die. I usually spray the die or the pipe with a little WD-40. But once you take that strap off, it'll pop right out. So there's my bend. Hopefully I got the length right, and it does a really nice job. It doesn't kink it or anything. This is a very you know, mild bend, but even my roll cage was 90 degrees and it bent it just fine without kinking the tubing. First bend is good, so now I'm set up. I kind of changed the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to use the bends to go back to the frame for the support rather than cut and weld, so it'll be a little bit stronger and one less weld and joint that I need to make. Make sure your floor or whatever surface you're using this on is level. And then for a simple bend like this, it's quite easy to, you know, you always want your bends parallel to each other so you don't get a wonky piece. Again, for a slider, it's not super critical, but it's going to make your miters much easier to tie into the frame. So I just use a little torpedo level to get the bends parallel, and now I can start making the second bend. I'm going to make the second bend a little steeper. It'll tie back into the frame in a shorter span and use less material. So I'm just going to kind of freestyle this bend. I'm not worried about, I'm going to make it a little long so then I can cut the ends to make it square across the face of the tub. And the tub is not parallel to the frame, so it's got angles going both ways. So I'll just slowly, you know, kind of make my cuts and measure as I go in. This is not like a mass production thing, so if I have to cut it 2 or 3 times to get it just right, it's no big deal. So again, I'm just gonna start bending and hope that I get it right. Whenever you're doing stuff like this, take as many notes and pictures as you can. Make sure you mark the front. If your bends are similar, it's just gonna save you time. And anytime you're making multiple bends, I write down the length of measurement and the degrees. So you know, find a reference point on your die or on your bender and mark that in your notes too, because there's several different places you could measure from. So I'll mark, you know, 8 inches from the tip to the strap or the bolt or the die on the first bend, and then I'll say bend 2, 33 inches from, you know, the tape or the tip to the guide wheel, or however you want to do it. I also have a flexible tape measure. It's kind of like a tailor's tape. That works really good so that you get consistent measurements over bends or uneven surfaces. So I want to repeat this exactly on the other side. So the more notes I take here, the easier that will be and the less waste I will have. Well, as with all my projects, I kind of changed my plan up partway through. I originally was going to bring this bend straight, you know, almost flush with the tub, and then have the bend right here and keep it all back and up as far as possible. But then I started looking at where my actual roll cage tie-in needs to be, and that was going to create some problems. So I actually flipped my piece around and I let the pipe bulge out here on the side, and I'm going to tie in my step with that. So I don't know if I'm going to come off of here, or maybe the roll cage mounting plate will, because that's like right here. So I might just extend that out, cut a little round edge on it with some expanded metal, and the step will be right there. But I wanted to actually bring this out a little more. That'll support the step. And now I have room, because I wasn't gonna have room for the bolts. So you never want your bolt head like right up against the tubing. It's a pain. So, and then I brought the other bend back in here. And like I said, this area isn't really in danger of getting smashed very much, and it's that heavier steel. So I really like the minimalist look. That's what I'm going for on this whole build. And so yeah, I'm gonna this is tacked in place right now. I'm just gonna weld the bottom part of it, and then when the tub's off for paint, I'll come back in and weld the top of it. But I'm pretty happy with that. And then it's gonna be mounted to the roll cage here, and then I'll probably have a mount up to the tub as a brace right there. But it's such a compact, small area that it's not going to be real prone to bending just because of how small it is. So I'm pretty happy with that. And the less tubing I add to this thing, the less weight, so should be good to go. So I'm going to weld the bottom of this and then make same thing for the other side. So this side's tacked in and ready for a step, and I've got the same thing over here on the driver's side. So I left about 3/8 of an inch, so that's enough room for my 1/4 inch step slash roll bar support. And I do have some rubber little shims. They won't go between the roll bar, but I have them for the actual body mounts. And I have my support brace slash step all drawn out, bored the holes in it for the roll cage mount, and then I'm gonna take the plasma cutter and round off this step so we don't have any big shin basher, and then this will get some sort of grippy tread type thing on it. But before that, I was getting the plasma cutter set up and I got scared to death. I heard this like hiss and then a big bang, and I had just been welding, so I didn't know if something blew up, a gas can or what, but it was actually my air hose, and I got 130 PSI in this. I just hooked it up to the plasma cutter, and I just heard kaboom, and dust was flying everywhere. So I have to stop, and I think I have one more air hose in here and try to repair this. If I don't have the hose that I need, I'll just have to cut that with the cutoff wheel. But I I've had this hose was in this garage when we bought the house 15 years ago. It's a Goodyear hose and I really like it, but man, I'm glad this is on the business end, so I'm glad I wasn't like painting or just had this blow up in my face. That was super loud and it scared me pretty good. So just something to think about, and that's what makes this stuff take so long. Now I gotta go switch an airline around. I'm not trying to complain here, but it's just part of daily shop, and you guys wanted to see daily shop stuff, so equipment repair time. I'll be right back. Well, I couldn't find my replacement hose. Maybe I sold it at a yard sale or something, so I don't like doing this and I don't recommend it, but I just used a barbed brass fitting, cut the hose off, cut about 2 feet off, and then clamped it on there. So this is not a permanent fix. I'm gonna get a new hose, but I need to run my plasma cutter. So I turned the regulator down a little bit, so I've only got about 90 pounds going to this, but now I can make my cut. So I'm gonna plug this in first and stand really far back when I put the air to it, and then we'll fire up the old Hynade plasma cutter and cut those steps out. The steps are done, so they're tacked in, got them partially welded, and driver's side is done also, and I made a little step. So like I said, I just wanted a small toe step just to help getting in and out. The bigger the step is, the more likely you're going to rip it off. So this is 1/4 inch plate, and it goes in to the roll cage, and that's kind of the cage mount for that as well. Once the tub's off, I'll weld in a brace for that back to the frame, so it should be nice and strong. So you can see I just used a piece of round stock on the edge and made a little crisscross pattern. It's nice and grippy, and then on the inside, that's where the roll cage bolts to, so it travels all the way under there. And if you look down from the top, you can see it only sticks out, maybe 3/4 of an inch. So I wanted to keep it up as tight as possible, and it's about 3 inches above the bottom of the frame. So should be high and tight, hopefully does its job. Same exact thing on the driver's side, little step and little rock protection. Moving on to phase 2, I still have 4 more mounts. These will be much more simple because they're not doubling as a rock slider or doing anything other than just holding the roll cage up. This should actually be quite simple. I'm just going to have an angled piece going up. The holes for the roll cage are just about 2 inches outside the frame, so it'll just have a slight angle up to a plate. So what I'm going to do is cut the plates, drill the holes, and I'll bolt them together and then fit the piece in afterwards. I always like to bolt everything tight and then tack it in place, and then you know it's not going to move while you're welding it. And then for the front mount, it's the same thing. It's just outside the frame. Just have a little angled, just probably a short piece of roll cage tubing. Weld it to the frame, bolt it to the other side of the bed, and we're done. It's about quitting time for the day, but I am almost done. So there's 4 points on the bed where the roll cage will tie in. I cut 1/4 inch plates and bolted them up through the roll cage, so they're already in place. Then I made little braces, so this is the same material as the roll cage, and it's going to go right like that. So I'll tack it in place to the bed, then take this out, fully weld it, and then tack it to the frame. And then when the bed's off, I'll get the pieces there that I can't weld from this position. And in the back, same deal. So I got this little guy here, mock that up. Actually, it's gonna go about right there. Tack that in place, pull it out, weld it, and then we're done. This was a lot of work. I know it doesn't seem like much, but just making these little pieces and fitting everything takes a long time. I use my miter saw and make them out of wood first. So I rip a board that's the same width as this. And then if you make mistakes or need to wiggle the angles, it's real easy and cheap and quick to do that. So then once the wood piece is done, then you just trace it onto the tubing and you're good to go. it is done. Got them mostly welded around there, bolted, so now the body can come off to finish the rest of it. I'm using my Yes welder, and I tell you what, this thing lays down some nice speeds. It's got plenty of power for penetration. Here's the machine I'm using, and I tell you what, this thing really does a nice job. I've been hammering away on it for a couple months now. I've got a 10-pound spool of 30 wire in there, and it just keeps on chugging. So here's what it looks like from the inside. So it should be a pretty sturdy little setup, especially for this light Jeep. So that's it for this video. I'm pooped. It's about 6 o'clock now. I started around 7:45. It doesn't seem like that much, but if you fabricate stuff, you know it takes a long time to hand make everything. And the worst part of it is that this really doesn't look any different, but that was a huge step. So now I can really scramble to get this body off and start painting, because I think all the welding and like grinding, cutting on the body is done. So now I can pop it off, touch up the frame where I've painted or welded and ground on it, and then body work and reassembly. It's going to really start looking like a Jeep soon. I'm excited. So I'm tired, so I'm going to end this video here. Another one will be coming soon. I'm going to be banging these out as we go along. Please let me know if you like this style of content. And thanks for watching. Catch you later.